doctor and I did my MD in forensic pathology from a reputed institution. Eventually, I became a well-known forensic pathologist in the city. I did dozens of postmortems in such a short time that a famous hospital in the city acknowledged and offered me a job as a senior pathologist. Everything was going great, and I was making evident progress in my career. But I was unaware of what was about to happen ahead. At that time, I used to work night shifts as I needed to take some classes in the morning. That night, when I was at home, about to leave for the hospital, I got a call from the only colleague of mine that I used to work with on the night shifts. She sounded worried and repeatedly said, "Sir, you need to come here. I am getting mad. I am going." And her voice got distorted and eventually faded. I thought that there must be an emergency, so I went as soon as possible. When I got there, all the lights were off and no one else was there. I tried calling my only colleague again, but she didn't answer. I assumed that she might need a day off, so she left. That wasn't much of a problem for me. I just went to my office and saw a file sitting on my table. I looked at it, and it mentioned a mysterious description of a dead lady who died in an exorcism and was brought in for postmortem. I didn't believe in such stuff, so I had my dinner, and casually I went into the postmortem room for further procedures that I needed to perform. The only difference that night was that I was all alone. 7 years into the field, I was brave enough to do it on my own without any fear that would cause a problem. I saw a body on the stretcher in the middle of the room. I went to the corner where I used to wear my gloves and appropriate clothing. My back was towards the body. While I was setting up scalpels, scissors, and other postmortem instruments in the tray, I heard someone moving beside me. I turned my head around to see, and saw that the mortuary blanket on the dead body's face was uncovered, and its head was tilted towards me. I thought I might have paid less attention before, or some wind must have uncovered it. But I was sure that when I stepped in, my whole body was covered. Anyhow, I went to the body, and I was about to start the procedure when I noticed the abnormality in the body. The body posture was crooked. The skin color was kind of purple. I thought that the body was brought on the same day. The body had a lot of marks on it, as if the woman was tortured badly before she died. I wanted to know a medical reason for her death besides the exorcism, as I didn't believe in it. I started with her nails. While checking her left hand, I felt as if there was a slight movement in the body. As I looked up, the eyes of the body were wide open and the eyeball moved as if it were alive. I stepped back out of shock. In my career, I haven't ever faced a dead body react to the forensics this way. I was still finding a medical reason for that, and continued with the postmortem after closing her eyes. As I continued, after about a minute, the eyes opened again. This time the pupil of the eye, the commonly colored part of the eye, was nowhere. They were all white. And the body started to shiver violently. I couldn't comprehend this situation and stepped back until I got hit by the wall on my back. And as I did, I quickly ran towards the table where I left the report of a dead body. I was unable to read or even hold that report, out of fear. The body on the stretcher continuously shivered as if it came alive. After about a minute, it went cold again. I went near it and checked its pulse. I did everything I needed to check if the person was dead. Everything pointed toward the fact that the body has been dead for a long time now. My concern grew even more. As I continued examining the body, it started shivering again, and this time I could hear demonic growls from her throat. It sounded like a heavy and old man's voice. All the medical instruments fell from my hand, and things in the postmortem room started to tremble. The light of the room started to flicker, and all of a sudden, the body sat on the stretcher. It had white eyes that were wide open, a creepy smile on its face, body color had gone purple, multiple torture wounds on the skin, and it growled like a demon. That was beyond my imagination, and I ran to my office. As I was dialing the guard's number, someone held my throat tightly. The phone fell from my hand and had trouble breathing. As I tried to look back, I felt like a dead person to see that dead woman, standing just behind me with a tormenting look on its face, gripping my throat tightly. Moments after that I faded, and when I opened my eyes, I saw a guard standing in front of me with a glass of water in his hands. I asked him, and he told me that he heard me screaming, so he ran and saw me standing in the office, gripping my own throat tightly. He said, my eyes were all white and I was growling like a devil. The guard, alone with another person, calmed myself down and I got unconscious. I asked him about the dead body that arrived that day. He told me that there was no dead body that arrived on that day. I got off the bed I was lying on, ran towards the postmortem room, and there it was. The same dead body with her face uncovered. I asked the guard about it. He told me that the body arrived a couple of weeks ago, and Miss Samantha, who was my colleague, brought the body in for the postmortem as she was curious about it. When I asked him about where Miss Samantha was, he told me that she tragically left the hospital early, crying and screaming that night, and didn't say anything. We tried to trace Miss Samantha, but what we found out about her shocked us all. As we got to her house, we got to know that she was dead. She committed suicide that night tragically. That night was full of unfortunate events for me that I can never comprehend from a medical perspective. I had to go through psychological treatment to get out of that trauma, and took a month off from work. I left that hospital and joined another one. I don't know what happened to that body or where did it go. In fact, I don't want to know.